They told me I was nothing. My own blood looked me dead in the eyes and said I'd never make it. Then they erased me, blocked my number, deleted me from the family group chat, acted like I never existed. But while they were celebrating my downfall, I was building something in secret, something they couldn't see, something they'd never expect. And when the truth finally came out, the look on their faces was priceless. This is my story. The story of how I went from family reject to secretly wealthier than all of them combined. And trust me, the karma that followed was sweeter than I ever dreamed. In the next few minutes, you'll discover 3 things that'll blow your mind. First, the real reason my family betrayed me and how it connected to an inheritance they thought belonged to them. Second, the hidden moves I made while they counted me out. And third, the moment they realized what I'd become and how their entire world crumbled. This isn't just about getting even, it's about rising from grief. It's about the comeback nobody sees coming. And it's about what happens when betrayal becomes rocket fuel for your greatest transformation. The inheritance twist alone will shock you, but the moment of justice that followed, that'll change how you see family forever. You need to hear every word of this, because somewhere in this story might be the key to your own comeback, the answer you've been looking for, the permission you didn't know you needed. Let me show you exactly how this happened. 3 years ago, I stood at my father's funeral. I was 28 years old, working a basic office job, making $42,000 a year, living in a small apartment, driving a car with 200,000 miles on it. Nothing special about my life at all. But Dad was special. He'd spent 30 years building a real estate empire from nothing. Rental properties scattered across 3 counties, commercial buildings downtown, 2 apartment complexes, even a small shopping center that brought in serious monthly cash. Our family name meant something in this town. Dad always told me I had a future in the business. He'd say it at Sunday dinners, during our fishing trips, late at night when we'd talk about life. Blood is thicker than water, son. You'll always have a place here. Those words meant everything to me. Then his heart stopped. No warning, just gone. He was 63 years old. The funeral was packed. Over 300 people showed up. My older brother Marcus came in from the city. My sister Jennifer flew in from Miami. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen since childhood. Everyone wore black. Everyone cried. Everyone acted like they'd lost their best friend. But I noticed something strange. Marcus and Jennifer kept having whispered conversations in corners. They'd glance at me, then look away fast. They had private meetings with Uncle Richard, Dad's business partner for 20 years. Something was happening. Something I wasn't part of. 7 days after we buried Dad, they called a family meeting. I walked in expecting to discuss his wishes. Maybe talk about keeping his legacy alive. Maybe plan how we'd honor his memory. I was so incredibly naive. Marcus sat at the head of Dad's old conference table. Jennifer sat to his right. Uncle Richard to his left. Like a panel of judges. They didn't even let me sit down before Marcus slid a document across the table. Dad's will, he said. Updated version. From 6 months before he died. I picked it up with shaking hands. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, because my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. According to this document, I got nothing. $0, 0 properties, 0 stake in the business. Everything went to Marcus and Jennifer, with Uncle Richard staying on as managing partner. I don't understand, I said. My voice sounded far away. Dad promised me. Dad changed his mind. Jennifer cut me off. Her voice was ice cold. He didn't think you had what it takes. You've never shown any real interest in the business. You're not built for this world. Marcus nodded. It's nothing personal. It's just business. We're actually doing you a favor. This way you won't embarrass the family name when you inevitably fail. I asked to see the original will. Marcus said it had been destroyed per Dad's instructions. I asked why Dad never told me about this change. Jennifer said he didn't want to hurt my feelings while he was alive. I asked to speak with Dad's lawyer. Uncle Richard said the lawyer had retired and moved out of state. Every question hit a wall. Every protest was met with cold stares. They had an answer for everything, and all their answers meant the same thing. I was out, done, erased from the family legacy. 2 days later, I tried calling Marcus. The call went straight to a message saying I was blocked. I texted Jennifer. The message turned green, blocked. I drove to Uncle Richard's office downtown. Security stopped me at the lobby. Mr. Richard says you're not authorized to be here. They didn't just take my inheritance, they took my identity, my history, my future, and they smiled while doing it. Now here's where things get really interesting. Most people would have crumbled. Most people would have hired an attorney and dragged them through court for years. That's exactly what they expected, what they prepared for, what they wanted. But I did something completely different, something they never saw coming. I watched them, not in a stalker way, just paid attention. I followed their social media, I read public business filings, I talked to people in the community who knew what was happening, and I discovered something that changed everything. They were terrible at running Dad's business, absolutely terrible. Within 6 months, Marcus made his first massive mistake. He sold 2 commercial properties because he needed quick cash. Properties Dad had held for 15 years, properties that generated steady income. Marcus sold them for half their actual value to some developer who immediately flipped them for double. Then he fired all of Dad's experienced property managers, people who'd worked with Dad for decades, who knew every tenant, every building, every quirk of every system. Marcus replaced them with his college buddies, who didn't know the difference between a foundation crack and a hairline fracture. Jennifer was even worse. She started spending money like she'd won the lottery, new Mercedes, designer clothes, first-class trips to Dubai, Paris, Barcelona. She posted every purchase on Instagram, every fancy dinner, every luxury hotel, every bottle of champagne. She was burning through cash like it was infinite. Uncle Richard? He just collected his checks and kept quiet. He knew the ship was sinking, but he was too close to retirement to care. I watched this happen in real time, and something clicked in my brain. These people didn't deserve Dad's empire. They were destroying it. And maybe, just maybe, I could build something better on my own. That's when I remembered something Dad mentioned once when I was a kid. He'd opened a small investment account for me when I was born, just $5,000. Said it was seed money for my future. I'd completely forgotten about it. I called the bank, gave them my information, waited while they searched their records. And then the banker said words I'll never forget. Sir, that account has grown to $78,312. My hands went numb. $78,000. It wasn't the millions my family stole, but it was mine. They didn't know about it, couldn't touch it, couldn't take it away, and it was enough to start. I quit my office job the next morning. My boss thought I was crazy. My coworkers threw me a pity party. They all assumed I was having a breakdown after losing my father and my inheritance. Let them think that. Let everyone think I'd failed. Because while they were busy pitying me, I was becoming dangerous. I took that $78,000 and I educated myself. Not the way Dad did real estate, a new way. I studied house flipping in overlooked neighborhoods. I learned about short-term rental strategies. I connected with investors who were doing deals Dad never imagined. I spent 12 hours a day reading, watching videos, taking courses, networking. 3 months later, I made my first move. A tiny duplex in a rough neighborhood across town, the area Dad used to drive through and shake his head at. Nothing but trouble there, he'd say. But I saw something different. I saw potential. I bought that duplex for $42,000 cash. I spent $12,000 fixing it up. New paint, fixed plumbing, updated appliances, made it clean and safe and livable. Then I rented both units out. The cash flow was small, just $800 a month profit after all expenses, but it was mine. It was working. It was real. I did it again. Found another property in another overlooked area, bought it cheap, fixed it smart, rented it out. More cash flow, then again and again and again. I lived like I was broke. Kept my tiny apartment. Kept my beat-up car. Wore the same 5 outfits on rotation. To everyone who saw me, I looked like exactly what Marcus said I'd be. A failure. But behind the scenes, I was building an empire brick by brick. Every dollar of profit went back into the next deal. No fancy purchases, no luxury lifestyle, just pure focused execution. After 1 year, I owned 6 properties. The monthly cash flow covered all my living expenses, plus gave me $3,000 extra to reinvest. After 18 months, I had 12 properties. The cash flow had tripled. I was making more money from real estate than I'd ever made at my office job. And here's the beautiful part. Every single property I bought was in a neighborhood my family had ignored. Areas they'd written off as worthless. Places they were too proud or too scared to invest in. But those neighborhoods were changing. Coffee shops were opening. Young professionals were moving in. Old buildings were getting renovated. Property values were climbing 15, 20, sometimes 30% a year. I was sitting on a fortune, and nobody knew it existed. Not my old coworkers, not my former friends, and definitely not my family. Marcus and Jennifer probably assumed I was working at some retail job somewhere, maybe waiting tables, maybe delivering food. They'd completely forgotten I existed. Perfect. That's exactly what I needed. To be forgotten, to be underestimated, to work in complete silence while they celebrated their inheritance. Because I knew something they didn't. Success isn't about who starts with the most. It's about who executes the best. And I was executing at a level they couldn't imagine. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. 2 years after Dad's funeral, I got a message that changed everything. It came from Robert Chen, an old family friend who'd been Dad's accountant for 20 years before retiring. The message was short. We need to talk. It's about your father. Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow? My heart started pounding. Like I hadn't heard from Robert since the funeral. Dad trusted him completely. If Robert wanted to talk, it was important. We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. Robert looked older than I remembered. Thinner, more tired. He kept glancing at the door like someone might walk in, like he was afraid of being seen with me. He ordered coffee he didn't drink. Then he pulled out a manila folder that looked ancient. The edges were worn. The paper was yellowed. This thing had been hidden somewhere for a long time. Your father came to see me 6 months before he died, Robert said quietly. He was worried. Scared, actually. He asked me to help him with something unusual. I leaned forward. What kind of something? Robert opened the folder. Inside were photocopies of documents, legal papers, property deeds, and a handwritten letter in Dad's messy scrawl. "This is your father's real will," Robert said, "his actual final wishes." My blood went cold. I picked up the papers with shaking hands, started reading, and with every line, my understanding of the last 2 years completely shattered. According to these documents, Dad wanted to split everything equally. 1/3 to Marcus, 1/3 to Jennifer, 1/3 to me. He'd specifically written that I was to be included as a full partner in the business with equal voting rights. "That's not what Marcus showed me," I said. My voice barely worked. "I know," Robert said, "because what Marcus showed you was fake." He explained everything. Dad had discovered something 6 months before he died. Marcus and Uncle Richard were stealing from the business. Small amounts at first. A few thousand here and there, then bigger chunks. They'd set up a side company and were routing contracts through it, taking kickbacks, skimming off the top. Dad found the records, confronted them privately. They denied everything, said it was a misunderstanding, promised to fix it. But Dad knew they were lying. So Dad created a test, a trap. He wrote a fake revised will, one that cut me out completely. He showed it only to Marcus and Uncle Richard, told them it was real, told them it was his final decision. But then he told them something else. He said he wanted them to do the right thing after he died, to ignore the new will, to split everything equally like he'd always promised, to prove they could be trusted. It was a test of character, Robert explained. Your father was brilliant. He knew if they honored his real wishes, they'd prove they'd changed, that they were trustworthy. But if they used the fake will instead, they'd prove they were exactly what he thought they were, I finished. Robert nodded. Your father made me promise to wait 2 years before coming forward. He said if they were going to do the right thing, they'd do it within that time. If they didn't, I should give you these documents and let you decide what to do. I sat there in shock. Dad had known. He'd known they'd betray me. Known they'd use the fake will. Known they'd cut me out. And he'd documented everything. Why didn't you come forward sooner? I asked. Robert looked down at his cold coffee. I wanted to. Every day for 2 years I wanted to, but I made a promise to your father. And I keep my promises. He pushed the folder across the table. It's yours now. You have proof. Legal documentation, witness statements, everything you need to take them to court and get back what's yours. I looked at those papers. Proof of betrayal, evidence of theft, the key to destroying Marcus, Jennifer, and Uncle Richard. I could file a lawsuit tomorrow. I could take back everything, bankrupt them, ruin them, make them pay for what they did. My hands touched the folder, and then I stopped. Because something had changed. I had changed. I didn't want what they had anymore. Their business was failing. The properties were deteriorating. Tenants were leaving. The company Dad built was worth maybe half what it used to be. Marcus had driven it into the ground through incompetence and greed. Meanwhile, my portfolio was thriving. I was making more money every month than Dad's business generated. My properties were in growing neighborhoods, my tenants were happy, my systems were efficient. I'd built something clean and mine and successful. I looked at Robert. Can I keep copies of these? Of course, but I'm not filing a lawsuit. Robert's eyes went wide. What? Why not? You have every right. I know, I said, but I don't need it anymore. They can keep their sinking ship. I built my own yacht. I took copies of everything for my records. Proof that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't the failure they said I was, that Dad had loved me and believed in me until his last breath. But I didn't go to court, didn't confront my family, didn't even let them know I knew the truth. Instead, I doubled down on my own success. I started a YouTube channel teaching people my real estate strategy, investing in overlooked neighborhoods, finding value where others see problems, building wealth without needing a huge inheritance. The channel exploded. 50,000 subscribers in 6 months. 100,000 6 months after that. The ad revenue alone covered all my living expenses. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was the community. Thousands of people who'd been counted out, who'd been told they'd never make it, who needed to hear that they could build something from nothing. I launched an online course. Real Estate for the Underdog. It made $30,000 the first month, $60,000 the second, $90,000 the third. People were hungry for this information, for this hope. I used every dollar to scale bigger. I partnered with other investors. We started flipping houses together. Houses in those same neighborhoods my family ignored. We'd buy them for $60,000, put in $30,000 of work, sell them for $140,000, 20 to 30 deals a year. My net worth crossed $1 million. Then 2 million, then 3. And through it all, I stayed invisible to my family. They had no idea what I was building, no clue who I'd become. They'd erased me. So I became a ghost who was getting richer every single day. But I never forgot them, never stopped paying attention. Because deep down, I knew our paths would cross again. I just didn't know how. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. Year 3. 6 weeks ago. Everything came crashing together in the most unexpected way possible. Marcus's business was in free fall. He'd made too many bad decisions, sold too many good properties for quick cash, let too many buildings fall into disrepair. Banks were calling in loans. Investors were pulling out. The whole empire Dad built was circling the drain. Then Marcus did something desperate, something stupid, something that would change everything. He decided to sell the shopping center, Dad's crown jewel, the property that generated the most stable income. 22 commercial units, grocery store, restaurants, shops located on a main road with perfect traffic. It was the one asset keeping the whole business afloat, but Marcus needed cash fast. He needed it so bad he was willing to sell below market value. He just needed someone with money who could close quickly, someone who understood commercial real estate. Word spread fast in the investor community. That's how these things work. Someone knows someone who knows someone, and within a week, the deal had reached people I knew. My business partner called me on a Tuesday afternoon. "There's the shopping center for sale," he said. "Owner is desperate. It's worth about $3 million, but he'll take 2. A perfect location. Just needs professional management. We could probably flip it in 2 years for $5 or $6 million. Want in?" "Send me the address," I said. When I saw it, my heart stopped. Dad's shopping center. The place I'd visited as a kid. Where Dad would walk me around and explain how commercial real estate worked. where he'd point at each tenant and tell me their story. "Who's the seller?" I asked, even though I already knew. My partner gave me the name of a holding company. I recognized it immediately. It was one of Marcus's entities. This was it. The moment I never planned, but somehow the universe delivered. I could buy Dad's legacy out from under the brother who stole it from me. I had the money now. Between my properties, my course income, my YouTube revenue, and my investment partners, I could easily afford it. But I needed to do it face to face. I needed Marcus to see me, to know what I'd become, to understand exactly what he'd created when he cut me off. I told my partner I wanted to be at the negotiation meeting. He thought it was weird, but agreed. He set it up through his broker. Marcus had no idea I was involved. He thought he was meeting with a group of investors interested in the property. The meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon at a conference room in a downtown hotel. Professional, neutral territory, just business. I got there early, set up at the head of the table, laid out my property portfolio documents, my financial statements, my business plans, everything showing exactly what I'd built in 3 years. My partners arrived. We talked strategy, went over the offer, prepared our approach. Then Marcus walked in. He looked terrible, hair graying at the temples, dark circles under his eyes, expensive suit that couldn't hide how stressed he was. He'd aged a decade in 3 years. The weight of failure was crushing him. He walked into the room scanning faces, looking for whoever was in charge. His eyes passed over me once, then snapped back. His face went white. "What are you doing here?" His voice cracked. I smiled, calm, confident. "I'm the investor group, Marcus." "Well, part of it. The main part, actually." He laughed. A desperate, confused sound. "That's impossible. You don't have this kind of money. You can't afford this." I slid my folder across the table. "Why don't you look for yourself?" Marcus's hands shook as he picked up the papers. I watched his face as he read through them, watched the disbelief turn to shock, turn to horror, turn to understanding. Bank statements showing millions in liquid assets, property deeds for 18 buildings across 4 counties, business entity documents, revenue reports from my course and YouTube channel, partnership agreements with other investors. "You've been doing this," he whispered. "This whole time. You've been building all of this." "Every single day for 3 years," I said. "While you were running Dad's business into the ground, I was creating my own empire. In the neighborhoods you laughed at, with the strategies you were too proud to learn, with the work ethic you never had." Marcus put his head in his hands. For a minute, nobody spoke. The only sound was the air conditioning humming. "I made mistakes," he finally said. "I know that. But you're my brother. You can't do this to me." "I'm your brother?" My voice was ice. "You cut me out of the will. You blocked my number. You erased me from the family. You told me I was worthless. And now you want to play the family card?" He looked up. His eyes were red. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was jealous and scared, and I made terrible choices. But please don't take this from me. This is all I have left." "You're right," I said. "This is all you have left. Because you destroyed everything else. And you know what? I'm going to buy it." Marcus's face crumpled. "Why? To hurt me? To get revenge?" I leaned forward. "No. Because it's a good investment. Because I'll manage it properly. because the tenants deserve better, because it's what Dad would have wanted. That's when I told him everything. About Robert, about the real will, about Dad's test, about the trap Marcus had walked right into. I've known for a year, I said. I've had proof you used a fake will, proof you stole my inheritance. I could have destroyed you in court, taken everything legally, buried you in lawsuits. Marcus stared at me. Why didn't you? Because I didn't need to, I said simply. I built something better. Something that's actually mine. Something you can't touch, can't tarnish, can't take away. And that's worth more than anything I could have won in court. I stood up, straightened my jacket, looked down at the brother who tried to erase me. I'm buying the shopping center for $2 million. That'll be enough to pay off your debts. Maybe you'll have $100,000 left to start over if you're smart about it. But your time running. Dad's legacy is over. You failed the test. You failed Dad. You failed yourself. I walked toward the door, stopped, turned back. One more thing. Dad knew exactly what you were. He set this whole thing up because he saw your greed, your weakness, your betrayal. And you know what hurts the most? He gave you a chance to do the right thing, to prove him wrong. And you chose to be exactly what he feared. I left Marcus sitting there, broken, defeated, finally understanding what he'd lost. Not just the money, not just the business, but the chance to be better than he was. The shopping center deal closed 3 weeks later. I took over management, upgraded the property, raised rents to market rates, improved tenant relations. Within a month, the property was generating 40% more income than under Marcus's management. I'd won. Not through revenge, not through lawsuits, but through becoming someone Marcus could never be. Someone Dad would be proud of. So what does all this mean for us today? This story isn't really about getting back at family. It's about something way more powerful. It's about what happens when you stop waiting for permission to succeed, when you stop needing validation from people who don't value you. Here's what I learned through all of this. When my family cut me off, they thought they were ending my story, writing me out of the family narrative, closing the door on my future. But they were actually setting me free, free from expectations, free from having to live up to Dad's shadow, free from playing by their rules, free to become whoever I wanted to be. Think about it for a second. If I'd gotten my inheritance, what would have happened? I probably would have joined Marcus in the family business, followed his lead, done things his way because he was older, more experienced. I would have been comfortable, safe, stuck, living someone else's dream. Being cut off forced me to build my own path. I had to learn, had to take risks, had to become someone completely new, someone stronger, someone independent, someone who didn't need family approval to know their own worth. That's the first big lesson here. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing in disguise. Family betrayal hurt worse than anything I'd experienced. But it gave me something Marcus never had. Hunger, drive, the need to prove something to myself, not to them. The second lesson is about the power of silence. I could have fought them publicly, could have posted on social media about what they did, could have told everyone in town about the fake will and the theft and the betrayal. Made myself the victim in a very public way. But I stayed quiet. I worked in the shadows. And while they thought they'd won, I was becoming dangerous. When you're not busy defending yourself, you have more energy to build yourself. When you're not explaining your moves, nobody can stop them before they happen. Third lesson. Your family's definition of success doesn't have to be yours. Dad built his business one way: buy properties, rent them out, hold forever. It worked for him in his era with his advantages. Marcus tried to copy that exact model. He failed because he was living someone else's dream with someone else's strategy. I created my own model: different neighborhoods, different strategies, different values, faster flips, online education, community building. And it worked because it was authentically mine, built for my generation, built for my strengths, built for who I actually am. Fourth lesson: the best revenge isn't destruction, it's construction. I didn't need to tear Marcus down. His own choices did that. I just needed to build myself up. And when you focus on becoming better instead of making others worse, you win twice. You get the success and you keep your soul. Now let's talk about what this means for you. Because I know some of you watching this have been cut off by family, told you're not good enough, betrayed by people who were supposed to protect you. Maybe it wasn't an inheritance, maybe it was just love and support. But it was something you needed and they took it away. You have two choices right now. You can spend your energy fighting them, trying to prove them wrong publicly, making them see your value, making them regret it. That's one path. Or you can channel that pain into building something they can't imagine. Something so undeniable that the truth becomes obvious without you saying a word. That's the path I chose. And 3 years later, I'm not just richer than my family, I'm freer, I sleep better, I answer to nobody but myself. I built something that reflects my values, not theirs. That's worth more than any inheritance. Here's the practical side. How did I actually do this? How do you go from $78,000 to millions in 3 years? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's just decisions repeated daily. First, I educated myself obsessively. Books, podcasts, courses, YouTube videos. I spent 6 months just learning before making a single investment. Knowledge removes fear. Fear stops action. Remove fear, you take action. Simple. That second, I started small, but started now. That first duplex wasn't impressive. $800 a month profit. That's it. But it was real. It taught me lessons no book could teach. Every property after that got easier because I had experience. Third, I focused on cash flow over appreciation. I needed money coming in every single month. That's what let me keep investing. Don't chase property values. Chase monthly income. Income gives you options. Options give you freedom. Fourth, I built a team. Found a property manager who cared, a contractor who was reliable, a mortgage broker who believed in me, an attorney who explained things clearly. You cannot do this alone. Nobody successful ever has. Find people who fill your gaps. Fifth, I stayed disciplined. No lifestyle inflation. Every extra dollar went back into the business. I could have bought a nice car after my first year, could have moved to a luxury apartment, could have shown off on social media. I didn't. Because delayed gratification is the price of financial freedom. These aren't secrets. They're not hacks. They're just choices. Choices I made every single day for 3 years. Choices you can make starting today. The only question is whether you will. And here's something nobody talks about. This journey was lonely. Really lonely. I couldn't tell people what I was doing because they wouldn't understand. I couldn't celebrate wins because I had nobody to celebrate with. I spent most nights alone working on spreadsheets and property analyses while everyone else was out having fun. That's the real price, not the money, not the time, the isolation. But isolation in the right direction is better than company going nowhere. I'd rather be alone, building something real, than surrounded by people pulling me down. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know, something I only realized recently. Something that changes everything. And after the meeting with Marcus, after buying the shopping center, after everything settled, something unexpected happened. I didn't feel the triumph I thought I would. I felt something completely different, something like emptiness. Because here's the truth, nobody tells you about winning. Sometimes you win and you still lose. Just different things. I won financially, I won professionally, I proved everyone wrong. But I lost my family. I lost those Sunday dinners I used to imagine having someday. I lost the brother who might call to share good news. I lost the sister who might ask for advice. I have money now, success, freedom. But I'm alone. That's the part of the silent comeback that nobody warns you about. You get everything you worked for, but you lose things too. Things you can't buy back, things that don't show up on a balance sheet. 3 weeks after the deal closed, Jennifer reached out. A short email, subject line just said, "Hey." The message was brief. "Can we talk? I know I don't deserve it, but I miss you." No apology, no explanation, just that. I stared at that email for an hour, typed responses I didn't send. Part of me wanted to reach out, wanted to believe people could change. Part of me knew it was too late, that too much had happened, that some bridges burned completely. I haven't responded. I don't know if I will. Maybe someday, maybe never. The wound is still too fresh. Marcus sent a letter 2 weeks later. Handwritten, 4 pages. His handwriting was messy, like he'd been crying while writing it. He said he was sorry, said he'd been jealous of me our entire lives, said Dad always praised my creativity, my independence, my kindness, and it made Marcus feel worthless. He wrote that he thought he had to be ruthless to earn Dad's respect, that he thought business meant being cold, that he'd become what he thought Dad wanted instead of who he actually was, and it destroyed him from the inside out. I keep that letter in my desk drawer. I read it sometimes late at night. It doesn't change what happened, doesn't give me back the 3 years, doesn't undo the betrayal, but it helps me understand why it happened. And understanding isn't forgiveness, but it's something. It's a step toward letting go. Here's the twist that broke me completely. Last week, Robert called me again. Said he'd found one more thing. A safe deposit box Dad had opened 5 years ago. It was registered only in my name. The bank had been trying to reach me but had old contact information. Robert helped sort it out. Inside that box was a single envelope, sealed. My name written on it in Dad's handwriting. I opened it with shaking hands. The letter inside said this: "Son, if you're reading this, then Marcus failed my test. I'm so sorry you had to go through this pain. Sorry I couldn't stop it from a grave. But I want you to know something important. You don't need my money. You never did. That was never your value. What you need is to prove to yourself that you can make it alone. That your worth isn't tied to my name or my business or what your siblings think of you. You need to discover that you're capable of building something from nothing. And by the time you read this, I believe you'll have done exactly that. Marcus needs my money because he doesn't believe in himself. Jennifer needs it because she doesn't know who she is without it. But you're different. You always have been. You have something they don't have. Character. And character builds empires that money never can. I love you. I always believed in you. Even if you doubted it during the hard times. Go build something beautiful, something that's yours, something that makes the world better. That's the real inheritance I'm giving you, not dollars, but belief. You're going to be just fine. Better than fine. You're going to be extraordinary. Dad." I sat in my car outside the bank and cried for an hour straight. Dad had known. He'd known exactly what would happen. He'd trusted me to survive it, to grow through it, to become someone stronger. The test wasn't for Marcus, it was for me. To see if I could stand on my own, to see if I could build something without his name protecting me, to see if I was really as strong as he believed. And I passed. Not perfectly, not without scars, but I passed. So, did I win? Did I get the emotional justice I wanted? That depends on how you measure winning. I'm richer than my family now, more successful, more independent. But I'm also lonelier. I'm validated, but I'm scarred. I'm free, but I'm disconnected from the people who share my blood. Maybe the real victory isn't about money at all. Maybe it's about knowing you can survive anything, even family betrayal, even grief, even starting from zero with everyone counting you out. Maybe it's about proving to yourself that your worth isn't determined by what others give you or take away. That's the power nobody can steal, the power to begin again and again and again until you become exactly who you were always meant to be. I look at Marcus now and I don't feel anger anymore. I feel something closer to pity. He had everything and lost it because he never learned to build. He only knew how to inherit. And when you only know how to receive, you never learn how to create. I look at Jennifer and I see someone who never discovered who she was underneath the money, someone who confused wealth with identity, someone who's going to spend the rest of her life trying to fill a hole that possessions can never fill. And I look at myself in the mirror and I see someone different than 3 years ago, someone who knows exactly what they're capable of, someone who doesn't need permission or approval or validation from anyone, someone who built something real and lasting and meaningful. That person is worth more than any inheritance. That person is my father's real legacy. Not the buildings, not the money, but the belief that I could do hard things, that I could rise after falling, that I could turn pain into power. If this opened your eyes, you need to hear what comes next. Let me recap the biggest lessons from this entire journey. First, being cut off forced me to discover strength I didn't know I had. What looked like the end was actually the beginning of something better. Second, I stayed silent while building in the shadows. That focus gave me an unfair advantage because nobody saw me coming. Third, I built success on my own terms, using different strategies in overlooked places. I didn't copy my father's playbook, I wrote my own. And fourth, the real victory wasn't financial. It was proving to myself that I could survive and thrive, no matter what life threw at me. But here's the deeper truth. This isn't just my story, it's the story of anyone who's ever been counted out. Anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. Anyone who's ever been betrayed by the people who were supposed to love them most. Your silent comeback starts right now. Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. Not when you feel ready now, today, this moment. And it starts with a decision. The decision to stop letting other people's opinions define your worth. The decision to channel pain into progress. The decision to build something so undeniable that your success speaks louder than their doubt ever did. Think about who in your life has counted you out, who decided you weren't good enough, who cut you off or pushed you aside or told you that you'd never make it. Write their name down, look at it, and then understand something critical. Those people gave you a gift. I know it doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like betrayal, like rejection, like the worst thing that could happen. But they gave you clarity. They showed you exactly who they are. And more importantly, they set you free to become who you're meant to be. My family thought they were punishing me by cutting me off. They thought they were protecting the family business from someone who wasn't good enough. But they actually gave me the greatest gift possible. Freedom from their expectations. freedom from their limiting beliefs, freedom to build something they could never imagine. You have that same freedom right now. You just need to claim it. You need to stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for approval, stop waiting for someone to believe in you before you believe in yourself. Because here's what I know for certain after 3 years of building in silence. The people who doubt you aren't watching close enough to see you succeed. They're too busy with their own lives, their own problems, their own failures. They've already moved on. The only person still carrying their words is you. So put them down. Let go of their judgment. Release yourself from the prison of trying to prove something to people who will never give you credit anyway. Because even if you became a billionaire tomorrow, people like Marcus and Jennifer would find a way to minimize it, to explain it away, to protect their ego by diminishing your achievement. You're not building for them. You're building for yourself, for the person you want to become, for the life you want to live, for the freedom you want to feel when you wake up every morning. Now, if this story hit you where you needed to be hit, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button. This channel is dedicated to real stories about transformation, about people who were counted out but refused to stay down, about the silent comebacks that nobody sees coming until it's too late. I share these stories because somebody out there needs to hear them. Somebody is sitting in their car right now crying because their family just cut them off. Somebody just got fired and told they're worthless. Somebody just had their dreams crushed by people who were supposed to support them. That somebody might be you. And I need you to know you're not alone. There are millions of us. Millions who've been betrayed and broken and counted out. And millions who decided to rise anyway. Subscribe so you never miss these stories, because one of them might be the message that saves you on your darkest day. Leave a like if this video opened your eyes to something new. The algorithm will push it to more people who need it. And honestly, changing one person's perspective makes all of this worth it. You could be the reason someone else decides not to give up. Think about that power. Drop a comment telling me your story. Have you been betrayed by family? Have you been counted out by people who should have believed in you? What did you do next? What are you building in silence right now? I read every single comment. And your story might become the next video that changes someone's life. We're building a community here of people who refuse to be defined by other people's limitations. Now here's what you need to watch next. Next week, I'm dropping a video called "They Said I'd Be Homeless. I Bought Their Company." It's another true story about transformation after betrayal, about someone who took their absolute worst moment and turned it into their greatest triumph. You need to see this. Click the video popping up on your screen or check my channel in 7 days. Trust me, it's going to blow your mind. But before you go, I want to leave you with one final question. One thing I need you to really think about: what would you do if you had nothing to lose, if you stopped caring what your family thought, what your old friends think, what society expects? Because that's where real power lives, not in comfort, not in safety, not in other people's approval. Real power lives in the moment you realize you can start over, you can rebuild, you can become someone completely new. Marcus had everything handed to him and he lost it all. I started with $78,000 and built a multi-million-dollar empire. The difference wasn't intelligence, wasn't connections, wasn't even luck. The difference was hunger. The difference was that I had something to prove to myself, not to them. And once you're building for yourself, nobody can stop you. Not your family, not your critics, not your doubts, not the entire world telling you it's impossible. You become unstoppable when you stop needing external validation. When success becomes about proving something to the person in the mirror instead of the people who doubted you. So here's my challenge. Take one step today toward your silent comeback. Maybe it's educating yourself on something you want to do. Maybe it's saving your first $100 toward a goal. Maybe it's just deciding that you're done letting other people define your limits. One step, that's all, because one step leads to another and another. And 3 years from now, you'll either wish you had started today or you'll be grateful that you did. The choice is entirely yours. The power is completely yours. The future is absolutely yours to create. I started with nothing but $78,000 and a family that had erased me. 3 years later, I'm financially free. I'm building a business I love. I'm teaching thousands of people strategies that work. I'm living proof that being counted out doesn't mean you're out. You can do this too. I believe that with everything in me, not because you're special, not because you're lucky, but because you're human. And humans are capable of incredible transformation when we decide that failure isn't an option. Your family might have cut you off. Your friends might have doubted you. Society might have told you that people like you don't succeed. But they're all wrong, dead wrong. And you're going to prove it, not by arguing, not by defending yourself, but by building something so undeniable that the truth becomes impossible to ignore. 3 years from now, someone's going to ask you how you did it, how you went from rock bottom to the top, and you're going to smile and think back to this moment, to this video, to this decision, the decision to start your silent comeback. Thank you for watching this entire video. Thank you for being part of this community. Thank you for believing that your story isn't over just because someone tried to write you out of theirs. Keep building. Keep growing. Keep proving them wrong by becoming so right about yourself that their opinion becomes irrelevant. And remember, the family who cuts you off might just be doing you the biggest favor of your entire life. They're setting you free to become who you were always meant to be. I'll see you in the next video. Stay strong, stay focused, and never forget that your comeback is always bigger than your setback. Now go build something beautiful.